I've always been a fan of Brian McKnight's music. He's one of my favorite R&B singers of all time. Now there's this controversy with his kids. His daughter and his two sons have came out and said that he's a deadbeat father and he's never done anything for them. But he's came out and responded to this by saying he's always been there for them. He's saying they're just spoiled and ungrateful. Now, I don't know what the truth is or what the truth is not. But Brian McKnight did a video providing proof that he's always taken care of them financially. He said they didn't start having a bad relationship until he stopped taking care of them. After his two boys turned 18, he got them both apartments and he paid their bills for 2 years. And he told them after the 2 years is up, you both have to get jobs and start supporting yourselves. But after the 2 years was up, they still refused to get a job and work for them and pay their own bills. They were expecting him to pay their bills for the rest of their life. You can tell his kids grew up rich and spoiled. And they don't know what it feels like to work for yourself and pay your own bills. He was trying to force them to be men and work for themselves and be your own independent providers. But they refused to do that. And this is why he cut them off. He said, until you start working for yourself and paying your own bills, I'm not saying shit to you no more. And that's why he has an extreme... a lot of rich parents, there's a lot of rich parents that have estranged relationships with their kids. Because as soon as they tell them, you need to start being an independent person and start working for yourself and start paying your own bills, these spoiled rich kids don't know what to do. These spoiled rich kids, they get mad at their parents and they get cut off by their parents. So I don't believe Brian McKnight is a bad father. I don't believe he's a deadbeat. I just think he was trying to get them to own up to being responsible. Now, I think there's an emotional connection with his daughter. His daughter says she doesn't care about the money. She just wants to be in his life. She wants him to be more in his life. I think the relationship with his daughter is more emotional than financial. But I think the relationship with his sons is all about the finances. Now, Brian McKnight has 3 kids. He has 2 kids with his first wife. He has 1 child with his second wife. And then with his third wife, he has 2 adopted kids that he adopted that she had before they were married. Because he's being a really good father to them, and they're jealous of the way he's treating his current kids that he's currently taking care of. Now, all his biological kids are grown. He has a son that's 30 years old. He has a son that's 27 years old, and his youngest is 18 years old. His daughter is 18 years old. So I don't believe he's a deadbeat. I just think he tried to get his kids to be independent, and they refused to be independent and work and pay their own bills. I'm going to show the video and show what he had to say.
Hey guys, it's Brian McKnight here. I've been traveling about 17 hours to Guam. I have a concert tonight, and I got off the plane to some of the most heinous craziness I've ever seen in my life. That my oldest son, Brian, would post that I'm abandoning my children. And the reason why, I suppose, is because I have a new family. And I guess this stems from a post that I made the other day about my son, Jack, who I'm very proud of, which isn't to say I'm not and haven't been proud of my other children, but I was proud of this one for the things that he did that day. But we'll get back to that in a second. Anyone who knows me knows over the last 20 years, 30 years now, as a matter of fact, that I've been there for my children every step of the way. Until recently, and let's be clear, my 2 sons are 30 and 27. Not 12, not 13, but 30 and 27. Now, my daughter's about to turn 18. That's another story I'll get to in a second. I've never missed a day of child support. I've never done anything adverse to my children whatsoever. I've always been there. I've always been there with advice, whether they took it or not. I have always been the sounding board, and I've always been the one that tried to help them achieve whatever dreams they were wanting to reach out for. I guess one of my only faults is that I gave my children everything that I didn't have in the hopes that they would appreciate it, because I know how much I would have appreciated it when I was their age. I would tell you, as parents out there, entitling your children is probably one of the worst things you can do, and I know I am guilty of that. For whatever reasons, I'm guilty of that. Tough love is a tough thing as a parent to try to institute to your children, because you want to help them as much as you can, and I did as much as I possibly could. When I stopped doing that for them, BJ was 25 and Nico was 22. And it wasn't like I completely cut them off at that point. That happened much later. But I've been there. When I put them out of my house, I gave them an apartment for 2 years. And I said, guys, this is it. This is the time to grow up. I'm giving you 2 years. I'm going to pay for everything for 2 years, but you're going to have to work or do something, because at the end of those 2 years, that's going to be it. It's time to be men here, guys. It's time to grow up. At the end of those 2 years, they hadn't done any of it. It was just right around the time that Leilani and I had gotten together. Leilani was working at Children's Hospital. And let's be clear, Leilani has been one of the only people who's been an advocate to keeping us together, to keeping us having a relationship, because she wants to have the nuclear family as much as I did. And they have spit in her face at every turn. She got them jobs at the hospital, $18 an hour with benefits, and with the option of the hospital actually paying for them to go back to school. They said, and I quote, that they knew they didn't want to stop smoking and they would have to pass a drug test. And the day I had the doctors looking into it, Nico's on there, taking a big puff, which is fine. If you want to smoke, that's fine. I'm not saying that that's bad. If that's your choice, that's your choice. But what I'm telling you is that we have been advocates for them every step of the way. Now let's go to the part where we have been estranged. Again, we talk about abandonment. I'm not abandoning them. We are estranged, which happens more often than not in this particular situation. BJ broke into our home a few months ago, and he put X's on the eyes of our wedding photos. And then he put a photo of my first wedding on Leilani's vanity. It was at that moment, and after I heard him say, and was pointed to from other friends of mine that saw his posts on social media, that he basically said that I was better off dead to him than alive. I was more valuable to him dead than alive. And that was the end of me dealing with him. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see that not my last video, but the video before that, 42, the song was written by Brian and I, and it was directed, the video, by Nico. And I went on and I said how proud I was of Nico at the time, and I really, really was. He did an awesome job in that video. Even before that, less than 2 years ago, these are the two gentlemen who stood up for me as my best man in my wedding. So abandonment, deadbeat dad, I'll reiterate, I've never missed a day of child support. I've been there every step of the way. BJ, he talks about Jack's new car. BJ had 3 brand new cars before he was 22. But I'm not talking about material things, because none of this has anything to do with money. It's about respect. Respect goes both ways. And even in family, there's a line that shouldn't and should not ever be crossed. It's crazy to me that people will just believe anything, and I thought it was important to set the record straight and let you guys know that abandonment has nothing to do with any of this. Deadbeat dad, I've been there every step of the way. And let's also remember that these kids are 30 and 27, not 12. It's time for grown men to be grown men. And I'm sorry that tough love happens to be this way. And I do wish them the best. I want them to have and to reach their dreams and their full potential. But like any other man in the world, you got to go out there and you got to take it.